conversation starts with an idea. Then comes the work, the process, the commitment to keep going. This is Creators at Work. Conversations with people who make things, share ideas, and build through creativity.
Welcome to Creators at Work. I am your host, Donald Dunn. Today's guest is Noah May, a journalism graduate from Auburn University and the host of 3 podcasts. Noah has faced serious battles with depression and anxiety from a young age, experiences that shaped his path and purpose. Now, he uses his voice and platform to speak openly about mental health, resilience, and what it means to keep moving forward when life gets heavy. Let's welcome Noah to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Noah?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, absolutely, man. So why don't we dive into this? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who is Noah behind your bio?
So Noah to me is very much a pretty shy person that doesn't really like having I don't really try to share a lot of my private life out there, but I'm a person that's I'm shy, but once you get to know me, I can open up real quickly.
I just got you. Okay. What brought you into the world of podcasting?
Back in 2021, I remember waking up and was just like, I want to start a podcast. But I, of course, had no idea or how I had any knowledge about how podcasts worked. I knew what they were at the time. I had been watching them for about 2 years at that point, so I kind of knew what podcasting was. And then when I transferred to Auburn in 2022, I was in one of my journalism classes. We had a guy that came and talked to us about podcasting, that he was opening up a podcasting class. And I thought, this is just like a spare of the moment, perfect for me to try to do. And I went to my advisor, told her that I want to be in this podcasting class, and was lucky enough to be able to get into the class. And I learned a lot of good techniques and lessons from that class. But after I had finished up the class, there was still a lot that I needed to particularly study up on and learn. And after I had graduated in 2024 in December, I kind of just took about a week or more or less a month and just sat down and focused on the podcast. And then back about last year, is almost about to be a year, I launched Lethal Venom for the first time and posted my first episode. And since then, it's just kind of grown crazily popular over the past year. It's been crazy.
That's awesome, man. So you come from a journalism background, right?
I do.
Okay. So what was it that when you first started Lethal Venom, what were some of the things that you as a young podcaster was trying to do and then didn't realize, oh my God, there's this involved and this involved?
When I first started, a lot of the earlier episodes that I had done were more solo episodes. This was even before Podmatch was even brought into the equation. And I just would do it on the down low. I just did it as a hobby and fun interest, never at that point had it as a job or was related to a job at all. Well, about 2 or 3 months after I had started, I learned about podcast guests in this network, which the creator of Podmatch sent me a private email personally and said, hey, tell me his name, said that he was part of Podmatch and that he had heard about my podcast or found it, if I was interested in learning about or joining the network. And I looked around at it. I had to look at it to make sure it wasn't a scam, because I had pretty good amount of scams coming at me at that point.
Yeah.
And I saw no red flags from anything. I read multiple articles on it. It had very 5-star reviews. I thought, okay, this seems legitimate. So I told him, I said, okay, count me in. I'll pay the 6 months, or I'll pay the $6 a month. And if I don't end up liking it, it's not going to be like a huge like waste of money.
Right.
But I started getting on there, and it was kind of learning about what was out there, how everything worked, and I have learned a lot about you have to stay up to date on posting and editing, because after a while, when I first started getting 5,000 interviews, that's when I was like, oh. So for the whole first season, I did so many interviews. I'm so far behind, but I've told people that I've got a lot of episodes backlogged. So in case if
Yeah.
anything happened to where I was out for the count, if I had a sickness, if I had a personal thing going on, I could have episodes ready to be posted. So
Yep.
it's kind of smart, but also kind of like lacking or slacking a little bit on the job. Uh, but for the most part, people are understanding.
Yeah. Alex is a really cool dude, man. He has a lot of heart behind the podcasting community, and so I agree with you. I love Podmatch. Been on there for a few years now, and absolutely great platform. Can't say nothing bad about it. He's I seen a video of his, and this keeps coming up in some of my episodes, but I seen a video of his that said that estimated it's like almost 4-1 for every for every four guests that are trying to get on a podcast, there's one podcast. So that explains where the backlog of episodes come and how fast, man, your guest list can grow, especially on Podmatch. So yeah, I do get it. Lethal Venom's been going on now for what a little bit over a year now.
I think from my last understanding, I think my 1 year is coming up.
Okay.
I thought it had already happened, but then when I looked at past episodes in the past, I ended up, it was later on into February. I think it was either the 20th or 24th. So I mean, it's coming up quickly.
Okay.
I can look real quick.
What
Yeah,
is
the first episode I posted was on February 24th. So it's
okay. Yeah, it's right around the corner.
yeah.
So what is Lethal Venom about? Tell everybody a little bit about what is the behind the reason behind it, and what is the whole purpose of it.
So, as Donald had kind of mentioned a little bit in the intro, that I suffer from depression and anxiety, it kind of came as a way for me to finally have my voice heard and kind of get my story out there so people could listen to it. I was growing up the kid that no one really wanted to talk to, I was kind of the outcast of everyone. And so majority of them never really knew a lot about my mental health journey. They never really cared at that. So I took it upon myself to make a podcast that wasn't even really supposed to be mental health, but I wanted it to be kind of a truth telling show. I
Okay.
wanted it to be kind of a way for me to get some of my opinions out there of things that I have been quiet about for a very long time. And it's been therapeutic in a way to really get a lot of that anger out.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much of a therapeutic process that was going to be. I mean, I had been going to therapy at that point for 2 or 3 years, and that was the most beneficial thing that happened to me, and I could have done that for free.
Yeah.
It's like instead of having to pay money to go to a therapist, I could have just been doing this for free. But it really helped me with a lot of my mentally getting a lot of anger out. I just felt so much happier, and because this was all opinions that I had about people bottled up for years, and
Yeah.
to be able to kind of blast it out on the podcast. Now, I don't use their names, of course.
Right.
I don't do that. As much as I would like to, I don't want a lawsuit, and so,
Yeah.
but I knew in a way that some people might get mad about not knowing who it is, but I kind of find it's like a little guessing game. It's like you can kind of be like, who is he talking about? So it's kind of those are the kind of episodes I liked. But yeah, the name kind of came from just similar how the truth hurts, how sometimes when people hear the truth, it's really hurtful and harmful towards people, and how venom is lethal to us. That's how the truth can be. So that's how the Lethal Venom came to be. I wanted it to be Venom because I thought that would be just like the ultimate, most badass name for a podcast, and then someone already stole it on Apple.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be kind of unique and only have one, like no one else would have it. So I tried the plural versions, and then of course those were taken. And I thought, I'm not really getting anywhere here. And I think I might have put lethal in there as well, and I think it was stolen as well. I thought, well, what if I just combine the two? And then I learned and didn't see a spot claimed for it. And I thought, I'm claiming it, and I won't say the name because I don't want it stolen from me. And so I kept it a secret until the first episode, or right when I was about to. Once I knew I had the rights to it, that's when I announced the name of it. But the name took a very long time for me to get.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a true statement what you just said, that podcasting can be very therapeutic. That's how I got into this as well. My first podcast was called Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room, and it was just us talking to some of the other soldiers that we served with, and I found myself telling stories about things that I went through that I had never even shared with my family. And over the course of having multiple guests, I started feeling better about it. And it really relieved a lot of that anxiety that I was holding on to, that I wasn't sharing. And that's where I discovered the benefits from it too. So I agree with you 100%. It is a way to get your voice heard, but it's also a way to get some of that weight off of you as well. And I think a lot of people find that same thing. Not to mention, just in general, the podcasting community is very giving. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to help, and they understand the problems and how hard it is to get a podcast to go right in the first place. So people like Alex and his wife and the other founders of Podmatch and other podcasters themselves are always willing to lend a hand and give advice and everything else. You're now up to what, 3 different podcasts, right?
Yes.
What was the second podcast?
Well, the Lethal Venom to me was kind of the second one. The first one but they kind of got released back to back. So, I mean, I kind of count them as like one release. I have a book podcast as well that I don't really post too much on, because this was my original plan, was kind of have balance of post one on the Southern Reads is the book podcast, post an episode here, do one on Lethal Venom, and kind of do back and forth. Well, Lethal Venom kind of took off quicker than I thought. I liked it more because I had episodes I could come out like that. Whereas with the book podcast, it takes some time because you have to read a book. You have to do a lot more research about how to come up with a podcast episode and everything like that. So the Southern Reads, it took a while to kind of get. So Lethal Venom, I was able to pump an episode out here like that. And once it got popular, I kind of put everything else to the side. I was like, this show's doing so well, I don't want to lose this momentum. So the book one and the music one, Music Talks, they both got put on the back burner. I posted, I think, 3 or 4 episodes on each one. And then it's just since then, it's been crickets. I wanted this year to be more of a balance, but the show keeps getting, Lethal Venom just keeps blowing up and it gets more popular. I'm starting to get now people randomly emailing me to be a guest on. That's not even through Podmatch. That's not even it's not me extending the olive branch of like, hey, I like your profile, loved story that you have. Do you want to come on my show and share it? So the fact that I'm getting so many just recommendations everywhere, it gets to where it's hard to balance 3 podcasts because you focus all your time on one. Now, I really would love to get those 2 up and going, but it just is difficult. And, by the time you get done with, because I do about 4 or 5 interviews a day for my show, it gets tiring at the end of the day. You're so tired, you're so drained because you sit at a computer desk and you talk into a microphone and all day and you edit when you can. Um, which I'm not complaining. That's just how podcasting is. If you
Yep.
know anything about podcasting, that's literally what it is. And you get tired very quickly. And I was it's very much borderline like, I'm exhausted. So by the time it comes evening, well, I'm so tired I can't read a book or listen to music. Or like I can listen to music but not a full album for
Yeah.
kind of the purpose of the show. And so it just gets so tiring. So I'm trying to still figure out like a good planning schedule of how to balance three podcasts. But when one show takes off, you kind of just focus and put all your marbles into that one, and you just get to the other two when you can. But sometimes that moment never happens. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever get to post on those. I mean, the music one would be probably more easier to start pumping episodes out um, than the book one because it takes a while to read a book for me. When an album takes maybe an hour, hour and a half to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just a lot. But the book one and the Lethal Venom came out at the same time, and then I think the music podcast came out in April or May. I think it was around there.
This episode is brought to you by Barracks Media, where your online presence becomes a real asset. Barracks Media builds professional websites for podcasters, creators, authors, and small businesses who are ready to be taken seriously. Not templates, not cookie-cutter pages, real platforms built to grow with you. Whether you're launching a podcast, promoting a book, or building a brand, your website should work as hard as you do. We design sites that convert listeners into followers and followers into clients. Visit barracksmedia.com and turn your idea into a home on the web.
Okay. So you said when you started Venom, you did it as a solo. So you had no guests on when you first started. I personally have found that doing a solo podcast is super tough. I struggled with it. I tried to do it, and I ended up finding myself just random talking and not really making any sense. I just felt awkward. Did you have was it hard for you at first to start as solo, or have you found having guests to be a little bit more tougher?
I think it's a mixed bag. It honestly is a mix for me. When I first started recording, I'll just kind of give it a whole behind the scenes thing about how Lethal Venom came to be.
Okay.
I started recording back in 2023 for episode, or 2024 for the episode. Auburn had kind of a podcast studio that you could rent out for, I think, like an hour or two at a time. And I would go in there and would record some episodes on my phone. I just kind of used the voice memo app on my phone and would just record video or record audio of that. Well, the podcast studio was really good at what it was, but it was very soundproof, to where I felt like I'm yelling to where someone outside could hear me. So I felt like I needed to whisper the whole time.
I got you.
And the episodes were just absolute trash. I hated how they sounded. Even being in like a quiet thing, I felt like if I say anything above like my talking voice right now, I'm screaming, people can hear everything I'm saying. So I think I recorded about 2 or 3 episodes. They never got posted. They got canned. One of them was like my mental health story that's out on the podcast. So I think I recorded that episode about 2 or 3 times before I was able to finally get like okay, that sounds good. That sounds right for me. I tried recording in my bedroom on my phone one night when I was by myself, and I felt like I was just not comfortable sharing it yet.
Yeah.
And then finally just kind of did it on my actual microphone at my computer. And I thought, okay, this is more comfortable. I lived with 2 guys at the time. So it was also like, I don't want them to think that I'm just talking to myself. I don't want them to think that they need to call a specialist to come in. But they never stay gone all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're just going to hear me really, which at that point, they kind of knew a little bit about me personally, but I thought they're going to hear the full extent of what I'm about to say. And it's just like, oh, they might have to be calling the psych ward on me. But I was like, it's either this or the podcast is not going to work. So
Yeah.
I kind of had to open up and say, I'm just going to have to record. I'm just going to have to, I would have to make kind of, in the earlier episodes, I always had to make discretions of my roommates are currently home. If you hear anything in the background, I do apologize. And, I didn't know anything about how it would sound. Like, to me, it sounded pretty loud in the moment. But then when you go and edit, you don't hear anything. So
Yeah.
you're like, okay. So that kind of was the things. I think one of the episodes. So for me, the earlier episodes were not really difficult for me to record because I did one on my mental health and I talked for about 30 or 40 minutes with no problem. I thought, I think 30 or 40 minutes is a good time. I've always said if I can hit at least 20 minutes, that's good. So I think recorded that one for 30 or 40 minutes. I then recorded one about my classmates. And I think for that one, I talked about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I think. And then I did one on school that I talked over 2 hours on. So, I mean, I didn't really have a problem with it. Yes, sometimes can be difficult to record with because they don't really have a lot of good questions and you're trying to think of questions on the spot and it's just not a good combo. But then then there could be someone that has like this captivating story
Yeah.
that you can just come up with like 10,000 questions on the spot and not have a single problem of like, oh, I'm out of questions. So it can be a mixed bag when it comes to guests. And that's kind of, I have some other pet peeves about that, but we can get into that a little bit later. But for me, it was never really a difficulty. Sometimes with guests, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about because sometimes, especially people that are new to the podcasting world as a guest and they don't know what to expect. And you get a lot of single word answers, yes, no, okay, uh-huh. And, you're like, man, this is going to be a long 30 minutes, 45 minutes if all I'm going to get is a yes answer.
This show is part of the Barracks Media Network, built by veterans, creators, and storytellers who believe stories change lives. Barracks Media produces podcasts, books, and digital content that amplify voices worth hearing. We help creators launch, grow, and monetize their message without losing their soul. If you've got a story in you, or a show in your head, go to barracksmedia.com and start building something that lasts.
And you have to find that spot that gets them to relax and then try to drag some stuff out of them and try to get them to elaborate a little bit. A lot of times the follow-up questions are really good. It may sound like you're asking the same question twice, but sometimes they get the hint. I don't want you just to say yes. I want you to elaborate on what you're saying. I've also found that having guests on and not pre-recording is a bad mix. Have you ever tried doing it live or have you always pre-recorded?
I have pre-recorded for the longest time because I don't trust the live at all.
Me too.
And my show too is I have a lot of personal things that come up on the podcast. I've had people come on talking about drugs. I've had essentially explicit things told on there. And, live streaming can just be an easy thing for a kid to come in.
Yeah.
And I mean, not every episode I do is PG-13 R-rated. I mean, I have G and PG rated things, but at the same time, I never know what questions can come out of my mouth because my brain can just say whatever it wants to. And I look back and I'm like, why did I say that? And then I don't know I really have no clue what the guest will say.
Yeah.
So I love the pre-recording as well because I do go back and censor names out. I do censor personal things out if they don't want the name publicly out there. So I just love the pre-recording because it's less stress than live. Because live, it's out there and it's out there. I can't
Yep.
record. I can't edit that live. So, and then people can see how low I am and some of the question asking that I do. So pre-recording is just really beneficial for me.
Yeah. A lot of young podcasters, when they talk to me, right. And I think this is one of the big mistakes that people make in the long run, because it's one of those things that add how long it takes to get your show to grow, is finding the right hosting company to host your show through. And I made that same mistake with my first podcast, now rebranded to Spirits and Stories. But if you once you go through and you start developing that community, and then you change your RSS feed, it's hard to get that community to find you again.
Yeah.
Who is it? Who are you going through as far as for your hosting company?
The only one that I was well aware of, and it's gone through 5 different names and ownerships, but it's Spotify creators, but at the time originally it was called Anchor.
Yep.
I had heard about Anchor back when I first started doing podcasting as, oh, it's a free platform. All you can do is record and it automatically sends your episode out to Spotify and Apple with no trouble. And I thought, well, that's simple for me and that's easy for me to do. Well, by the time I started doing podcasting, it kind of got rebranded. Spotify picked up their rights to it and they renamed it Spotify for podcasters, which now I think it's now Spotify for creators. As I've said,
Yep.
they changed the name 500 times. That's the only platform I've used, and it's been free. I've not used. The only thing I've had to pay was I had to pay an Apple subscription thing to get my show on Apple for like a yearly thing.
Yep.
It wasn't much, but then I've heard some people say that they don't. Yeah, it was about $19.99 or something like that. And but then I've heard some people say, "Oh, I don't pay anything for Apple." Maybe that's something that's changed.
So Apple, they've got a couple different options. You can you can have your RSS feed just put on Apple, but you can't get any information about your show. So you won't know who's watching it. You won't know any of the stats about how many downloads. It's just there. That $19 is what gives you the opportunity to monetize if you want to monetize. It's what also allows you to see more stats and get more knowledge, which is important with Apple. I mean, I hate to say it sucks that you have to pay that, but at the end of the day, 60% of all podcasts are consumed on Apple, so it is a massive part of the industry. I don't know that that's going to stay that way. YouTube is definitely making a strong push into the podcasting scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right now it's number 1 is Apple, number 2 is Spotify, and number 3 is YouTube. But I don't know how long that'll stay. I was familiar with what you're saying because I used Anchor as well. It is free. It's a great platform to grow your show on Spotify because it's owned by Spotify. So they do push their own stuff. I believe they have some advertising opportunities as well, that you can advertise for Spotify as well. If your show meets a certain criteria. So that's kind of cool. You can upload video, I believe, on Spotify now as well, right?
I think so, yes. I actually saw something today that said, I think now you can do as well. I think Apple was coming out with something now. So there's options out there, but it's just kind of trying to find the right platform and the right thing.
Yeah.
I've told people Spotify for me has been a good tool because I've not really had to pay minus the Apple one. Everything else has been free.
Yep.
I mean, of course I do have to pay a subscription to edit the podcast and all that. That's just kind of that's outside of Spotify's control. But I think for what it is, I think it's a really good platform. Now, does it have some kind of minuses and kind of like kind of negatives in it. Yeah, there's some things that I think Spotify could do to change, but if you're just wanting to get it on Spotify and that you don't really care about Apple, I don't see why people don't just use Spotify, because
Yeah.
at that point it's just completely free.
Yep. And they are the number 2 platform, you know. What was it? They paid Joe Rogan like $12 million to have his show specifically on Spotify. So yeah, it is a massive platform. It's not going anywhere. That's for sure. It will always be there. And it does, like you said, it is free, and they make it super simple to create a podcast with their stuff. Let me ask you this: what is your hopes or your goals for your podcast?
It's a good question, because I originally didn't know what I wanted to happen with the podcast. I thought it was just going to be this carefree, just do what I wanted to kind of thing. But now it's turned into a paying job, and I get paid to do it. And so in the future, I would like to have some podcasting upgrades. I would like to maybe have my own studios where I could have more in-person ones, and people could come in studio and we could talk face to face. I'm slowly starting to dabble in video as well. My podcast was originally audio, but kind of as you mentioned, YouTube is really trying to push out the video aspect of podcasts, as well as now Spotify and Apple too. So I joined the video train to, help, because apparently videos really do well now. I originally wasn't supposed to do it because I kind of think videos are a little bit more difficult to edit around and to have to deal with. It takes up more time.
Yep.
I think if I don't like the videos, it's just going to have to be an audio based show, because the platforms that I have to edit video on are just like, they don't cut it for me. They don't work. I hate how they sound, like how they edit goes. It'll just have to be one of those things where I have to sit down and do like a one-on-one thing of like, how do you use this platform? And then have to tap that 500 questions into Google and be like, okay, when you're at this point, what do you do next? And then it's just going to have to be a day where I have to do that. But
yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It is, you're luckier than most, getting paid to podcast is a sign of success. Most podcasters don't make anything, and it's all about, at the end of the day, what it is that you're wanting your show to do. Some people don't want to push the marketing side and all that stuff. So I wanted to congratulate you on the success of your show, and I'm awesome. It's awesome that it was therapeutic for you as well. We got that in common, so I think that's a huge plus as well. Why don't you tell everybody again? Do you have a website with your show on it as well?
I do. I have a website. It's noahspodcast.com. It has information for all three of my podcasts are on there. They all have their own designated page on there. So you can go on there and see the episodes and kind of learn more about where you can listen and follow it on there. So everything's on the website. So feel free to go check that out.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we'll make sure that we get the links down there in the notes for you, and everything, so it makes it super simple. I hope everybody goes and checks out Lethal Venom, and if you get the other two up and running as well, I hope they check those out as well. I love book podcasts. I have one as well. It's called Authors After Action. Super awesome topics get discussed there. It's always cool to listen to how some of these authors come up with the way they created their book and the meanings behind some of the characters and everything else as well. So we got that in common as well. So I hope everybody goes to Noah's website. Noah, thanks for coming on again. Congratulations with the success of your show, Lethal Venom. Hope all of you guys go check it out. That's Lethal Venom. You can find it on Spotify, and Apple. And I want all of you to go, listen, leave a review. All right? Do it now. Y'all take care. Be safe. Noah, thanks for coming on the show. I had a great time.
Thank you, Donald, for having me. It was a blast. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, man. No problem.
You've been listening to Creators at Work, a podcast from the Barracks Media Network. Thanks to our guest for sharing their experience, and thank you for listening. Discover more creative conversations across the Barracks Media Network. We'll see you next time.